Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to round 4 of Endurance for Amateurs 2023 Season 3 at Watkins, Glen in New York State, brought to you by Ninja Botanicals and AlienAwards.net. A 90-minute endurance race awaits us for these LMP3 and GT3 cars, and last week saw Nick Terrell come away with a dominant win in the LMP3s and Terry Kiger Jr. pacing the field for the overall GT3 win. For the B class, Roger Schenk was the highest finisher of the field in that GT3 class. Our two overall winners from last week are atop the leaderboards, where Terrell has a 2-point lead on Don McCloy, while Kiger has a 13-point lead on Jeff McDonald behind. I'm joined in the booth by my co-host, Paul Skip. Paul, this is a famous track in real life and here in this league as well. What makes this such a long-standing, stalwart track that always brings great action?
Well, Pony Express has a bunch of history here at the Glen. In the past, it's been our season finale. Championships have been won and lost at this track. There's lots of opportunity to pass here, which unfortunately opens up the door for a lot of chaos, especially going in uphill through the S's into the bus stop. Turns 9 and 11 all are real tricky corners, can easily be screwed up, and makes for great racing every time we're here.
Yeah, this is in a lot of times in the past has been the season finale, and we've had plenty of championships won and lost in this race here. Tyler Langenberg on the screen is one who was able to get that E4A championship under his belt in this final race. Not the final race here today, but still a lot of points up for grabs across the field and a lot of close battles. I mean, just looking at that LMP3 field right now, Nick Terrell, like I said, he's up on top with 153 points, but Don McCloy just 2 back at 151, and Brad McCombs only 1 behind him at 150.
I'd also mention that Nick Paletti, Zach Nurberger, and Christopher Craig, filling out 4th, 5th, and 6th, still even have a shot at a podium finish in the championship. It's still early on. It technically is anybody's championship, but the P3 championship especially is super tight right now after just 3 races.
Yeah, with 7 races, this race here will put us over that halfway mark, so we'll have a better idea of where the drivers are going to be. I think also that one drop week is going to get calculated after this week, which will certainly shake some things up, especially for guys who may have had a bad race so far. Right now, Nicholas Paletti not looking like he's having a bad qualifying. He's got a few purple sectors here. He's one of the first guys to set a time, but 3 purples already in the start of this track.
Nick was looking real hooked up in practice. He's definitely got the track figured out. He's got the pace. We're just going to have to see what he does with it.
LP3s, a lot of times we've seen them get faster and faster through the race, but still, those first couple laps in qualifying are going to be ultra important. Nicholas Paletti's first attempt here with 4 purple sectors out of 5 is a 139.9. So we'll see if anyone's able to compete with that. Meanwhile, Jeff McDonald, first time for the GT3s, but Terry Kiger Jr. behind with a lot of purples, and that Aaron Claybon at first, Terry Kiger now to first with a 143.9.
Yeah, Terry's just proven that he's got blistering pace this season. He's got his favorite GT3 car working great for him. He's going to be a hard man to beat tonight.
Yeah, a lot of drivers here in the GT3 class that have already done their 3 races. This will be their 4th, so some drivers who may be able to qualify in the top 35% still will not get promoted. That's just relevant for the first 3 races that you attend. But we've got some drivers that still have that chance of being promoted today, so interested to see if we see any exciting results with that. Right now, though, a couple green sectors across the board from a lot of these guys. Dan Real looking to set his first time with a few greens so far.
And then we got Zach Nuremberger, who worked his way into 2nd position.
Yeah, 2nd place right now. Nicholas Paletti holding that pole position by 1.2 seconds. Very competitive behind as we have just those 2nd through 5th, sorry, all very close to each other. Real's time here, let's see what time. That puts him up to 6th place with a 145.2 in a very competitive GT3 field right now.
I love that Toyota Tom's paint job. That's great.
Newbie here also coming across to put in his first lap time. That puts him all the way up to fourth with a 1:44.6. Very competitive so far. A driver who mistakenly was referred to as a B class earlier in the season. He did qualify in A, so if you are following Chris here and you're confused why that he did qualify in A couple races ago, that's been corrected, and he's up here certainly showing that pace. Elijah coming across. A lot of green sectors so far. Currently in 14th. See if he's able to improve his position here with an improvement of time, not improvement of position, but still some laps to go. 4 minutes for these drivers. A lot of yellow sectors we're seeing out there, though, as maybe the tires starting to fall away a little bit. Paletti able to put in a purple in that second sector, but that did come with a yellow first sector, so I don't know if that's thrown him off too much on the pace. Clearly not. Another purple, but that second sector just got stolen by another driver out on track doing a time. Paletti rounding the boot section and rejoining the old, more historic part of the track. He's setting some pretty good times here. Only one of those purples stolen from him. This may be an improvement. He's already nearly a second up on second place. Let's see if he's able to extend this gap. He should, unless that first sector was too slow. With a 1:39.4, increases by another half second. No one able to keep up with Paletti in this qualifying session.
Just a blistering pace.
Look at that GT3 field, though. Terry Kiger Jr. on top, as we've often seen. But behind that, it's not safe behind. Every driver between 1st and 13th is within, I mean, really, most of them within a couple tenths of each other. This is uber close for these guys. LMP3 is a little bit more spread out right now. Don McCloy is now in second place up there. But the GT3 is crazy right now.
Yeah, the GT3 guys just, they're such close cars, regardless of whether they're driving the Ferrari, the Porsche, or the BMW. They're just so evenly matched. It's going to be really hard to get away from any other car.
Nuremberg, an improvement of a position there, moving his way from 6th to 5th. Jeff McDonald there, who is our 5th place driver, at one point was higher up in this qualifying session. He's got a couple green sectors under his belt so far to start this lap. This might be the makings of a few spots gained here.
Looks like Brad McCombs has worked his way up into 3rd.
Yeah, Brad McCombs, again, just a point behind Don McCloy, who he is 500ths behind in qualifying. I do not see Nick Terrell here. He will have that drop week that he can use, of course, today after a strong start to the season. It's not optimal, but he's not out of this race championship-wise, and it's really going to be down to who takes the lead coming out of this between McCloy and McCombs, most likely.
Odds are, but Nick is just sitting outside of the top 3 by only 9 points. If Nick has a great race tonight, it could put him up in that one of those podium spots.
Jeff McDonald, improvement of a few hundredths there, but unfortunately not able to grab another position. Now just 14 thousandths behind Christopher Newby ahead. Don McCloy there, putting in a time that was not able to topple Nicholas Paletti, but was able to get a lot closer. Cut nearly 8 tenths out of that gap that he had. Terry Kiger Jr. with a couple purples on the track right now as well. Looks like that was not an improvement or not a legal lap time for him there.
Probably just a scrubbed lap.
Nuremberger in the twilight hours of this qualifying session, getting another position there, up into 4th place. It's actually shaping up to be a little bit closer there in the LMP3s here late in this qualifying. Still nothing that's what we're seeing in the GT3s. Claybaugh 5 thousandths behind Garcia, and Kempter's 3 thousandths behind John Kelly. And this will be the time running out on this clock as the clock hits 10 minutes. So, fortunately, Foreman there not able to complete his lap. We will verify these results and be back with you in just a couple minutes. right, and we are back, and here are our qualifying results here for the Watkins Glen Round 4 tonight. Nicholas Paletti, third pole on the season with a 1:39.433. Has 3 poles, still no podiums on the season. We'll see if he's able to turn that around today in this race and get a victory from pole. Don McCloy coming in second, and Brad McCombs rounding out the top 3. Behind them, Zach Nuremberger, Andrew Neri, Ryan Jeevan, Mark Dillon Jr., Daniel Plotis, Vernon Margheim, and Atticus Middleton rounding out our LMP3 field.
And in GT3 on the pole for GT3A, we got Terry Calgar Jr., followed by Adrian Garcia, Aaron Claybaugh, Christopher Newby, Jeff McDonald, Tyler Langenberg. And then on pole for GT3B, we've got Keith Roycroft, followed by Daniel Rial, then Andrew McMurray, Kevin Berquist, John Kelly, Sasha Kempner, James Foreman, Richard Curry, and Leonardo Elijah rounding out the field tonight.
This should be a good race here, very close throughout the field, and of course a track that almost all of these guys are extremely familiar with. Nearly countless races done here in this league and elsewhere.
One of the things about the Glen is nobody really dislikes the track, but a lot of our top drivers know that things can go either really good for you or really bad for you here.
We wait for the cars to grid up here. They will be doing a full lap, 4.4 kilometer circuit, so not the longest track in the world, and that does influence some pit strategy as well. The LMP3s seem to have a pretty decent gap on the GT3s, at least how we compare it to some of the previous races, especially last week at Long Beach. They were completely intermingled. So it should be easier for the LMP3s to get away, but they also should actually catch up to those GT3s sooner in the race, and it may influence some pit decisions.
It could very well. You know, you get caught in a bunch of slower traffic in a faster class, and that's just not a place you want to be. It might benefit you to take the pit early. Another thing to maybe be concerned about, especially in the GT3 class, is how long your tires are going to hold up. Watkins Glen is notorious for killing the front tires, particularly the front left, because you got a lot of fast right-hand corners around this track.
Yeah, unfortunately, has to bring out the anti-racer in these drivers to not go as fast as possible, and take it a little bit easier in some of these corners just to maybe preserve the tire life, or at the very least preserve the tire temperatures, and try to make it in this race a little bit longer, a little bit faster. So it certainly seems antithetical inside the cockpit. Very difficult to do.
Yeah, it's real hard to remember that you got to conserve for the end. You know, we're going to be here for a good 90 minutes. It's a long race. You know, a bad pit stop could end it for you real quick.
Coming up through these S's, the no passing zone will be after these S's here. Is always a famously dangerous location in the track on race restarts and on starts as a whole. So shouldn't see any incidents there, ideally, unless someone just loses control. But the passing will be allowed after that, while lap 1 incidents will still be investigated if they do happen. Speaking of, I don't think we have any drive-throughs from last week. I don't see anything about it, so I think that no one getting penalized here, but we'll have to keep an eye out on that.
From what I'm seeing, I think all the end-of-line penalties have been served.
Kevin Berquist is in the pits now, so I'm not sure what happened there. But it does look, at least according to my graphic here, that he is not in, but he took the start, I believe. Let's see real quick, we got a little bit on this pace lap. That's interesting. It flagged something about him making a pass, and then potentially an issue for Leonardo Elijah. Well, can't figure out what happened there, but Berquist is in the pits, so I guess we'll have to find out if he intends to start this race or not. And meanwhile, Andrew McMurray as well. I don't think that he is out on the track. Vernon Margheim too in that LMP3 class.
Yeah, if they are sitting in the pits, it's got to be due to some kind of problem. I don't imagine you'd want to start Watkins Glen from the pits behind everybody. It's not a good place to be.
Can be difficult to make a move here sometimes. A couple choice passing opportunities. But after that, sometimes it's just about trying to force a mistake from the guy in front of you. Okay, so Andrew Murray is now present in the pit, so maybe they do intend to start this race. We'll have to keep an eye on it. Nicholas Pleddy here trying to get those tires warm for the start of this race, trying to get the car in the best operating temperature behind this very slow safety car as he's about to round the final corner here for Watkins Glen before we get started. No passing until after those S's, but they will still be going full speed. As we watch the safety car pull into the pits, Nicholas Pleddy waiting for the green flag, and everyone will go. And there you go, acceleration on the green flag, heading them down into the 90. No passing, but Paletti leads the field for the third time this season out of 4 races into corner 1. Drivers keeping it in the barrier, or inside the boundaries there. There'll be a discussion later in this race as they now make their way through the S's. Passing is allowed. Don McCloy has kept it quite close. 3/10. He's got the gap to Brad McCombs behind, but he is close to Nicholas Pleddy in front. This might be enough to make a move. Don McCloy not choosing to do so. McCombs driving a little bit defensively behind as he had to worry about Zach Nurnberger making a move early, and there he goes around the outside, though.
Going outside on the outer loop like that's a real hard move.
Yeah, may have just been putting it there as a safe measure to keep out of the way of some other cars. But it slots back into that third place spot. Don McCloy now falling back a second to Nicholas Paletti. Nobody in the GT3s at the top of the field have lost or gained any positions so far. We do have a pass from Sasha Kempter on John Kelly there into 9th place. Oh, that was a big lockup and spin in front. That was Daniel Plotis, I think. As you can see him on the outside, I don't think that involved anybody else. It does not look like it was. Going deep there in the heel. Very tough corner. This corner tough as well. As you can see, the heel get a little bit loose as he has to worry about Claybaugh behind just 4/10.
Yeah, turn 9 is one of the trickiest corners on this track. It's so easy to lose the rear end and loop it around right there and catch yourself in the middle of the track.
So only one issue so far in this first lap. Dan Plotis looks like it didn't affect anybody else. And the racing is 100% on now. So we'll see if these guys get a little bit more feisty heading into the bus stop. And this GT3 field is staying as close as they were in qualifying.
And it's super impressive that both Adrian Garcia and Aaron Claybaugh were able to take the non-it car.
Paletti just lost 2 positions. He's down. He's in the pits. Paletti, another potentially nightmare start to this race on pole. Huge gap behind into the bus stop. Let's see what happens here. Oh. Wow. Oh, and now, and Don McCloy heavily involved in that as well.
Yeah, it looked like Nick just got a hold of too much curb, totaled the car, had to tow.
Look. Head into the bus stop here. It would have been okay if the car had headed to the left, but it snapped back right. McCloy did everything he could to avoid that. Nurnberger hitting the wall, and then also, McCombs hitting the wall, and then Nurnberger definitely avoiding to the inside there.
Yeah, that's a tough break for both Don and Nick. They had such great pace tonight.
Brad McCombs as well. It looked like he didn't maybe hit the wall that hard, but it was enough to send him in the pits. So he's in the pits at least to get a repair, but he may actually have towed. So Zach Nurnberger is the race leader. Ryan Jeevan behind 1.7 seconds, who just put in the fastest lap for the LMP3s. And then Andrew Neri, Mark Dillon Jr. close behind as well. So this has totally opened it up. Wide open. It was Don McCloy and Brad McCombs likely coming away from this with the lead in the LMP3 championship, and Nicholas Paletti is a dark horse, and now all 3 of them are out of this race.
Yep, blew my predictions out of the water.
Here's Dillon Jr. with his brand new wheel that he's got. trying to take that position from Andrew Neri in third. Not able to into the bus stop there. You really have to have a good run. Dan Real there making a move on Keith Roycroft. Let's see what happened here. Real on the left, Roycroft on the right. Just a much bigger run. Roycroft doing the best he can just to slot in between the two and not lose two positions at once.
Yeah, passing into the bus stop is really set up coming out of turn one, going through the S's up the hill. If you're not right on their bumper, getting all the draft, you really don't have a whole lot of shot at outbreaking somebody in the bus
that was
stop.
wide there. Wide by Ryan Jeevan. Andrew Neri taking the place for second. Mark Dillon Jr. also claiming the position from him. Jeevan down to fourth place just from a very minor mistake, but that's how close it is right now. Mark Dillon Jr.'s view here as he comes around the corner, around the heel, and just too slow for Jeevan to try to get back up to speed, and nice move around the outside. It extends Nürnberger's lead at the front for the LMP3 class, now up to about 2.5 seconds as, of course, Neri lost a little bit of time making that move on Jeevan. Behind the GT3 class has stayed pretty close. Calgary's got a relatively safe gap of about a second. But meanwhile, a lot of the guys behind, not so much, especially when we go to the midfield here with Curry, Foreman, Kelly, and Roycroft and Kempter.
You're going to see a lot of that here at Watkins Glen. You're going to get a lot of pack racing, like the guys are bunched up and then jockeying for position. It's just the nature of the track here. These guys will probably be stuck together until somebody makes a mistake or a pit stop comes up.
Curry trying to make that attack on the inside. Now on the outside, doesn't look like he's got enough of a run to do so, but he does look like he's got some pace right now. In that 12th place spot, trying to claim 11th from James Foreman in front, both in the Ferrari. Meanwhile, further up, Chris Newby keeping it close to Garcia, keeping it close to Claybaugh. This just allows Calgary Jr. to step away a little bit more as he now has 2.5 seconds. And this battle between these three drivers, actually now including McDonald back there, 4 drivers, is really helping Terry's case for another win today.
I do got to say it's super impressive to see the BMW of Aaron Claybaugh and the Ferrari of Adrian Garcia up front in 2 and 3 against this almost full field of Porsches. They're driving.
Yeah, this was the move that Aaron Claybaugh made on Vihil. Vihil just barely went wide. I mean, that was hardly a passing opportunity, but he just had so much pace coming out of that outer loop into the chute. Wonderful move by Claybaugh. Newby's view as we head up the hill through the S's, and it looks like something's happened to Andrew Neri, and I think Mark Dillon Jr. involved as well. LP3's not been good for them so far. In the bus stop, side by side, Dillon on the front. I don't think they actually touched.
They definitely didn't touch. It looked like Mark got a little bit too much of that first curb, launched the car, and just that's all she wrote.
I mean, that's the absolute best outcome. You go and smoke ahead. That was Mark Dillon Jr., I believe. I think maybe crashed on the outside of that corner as he just towed to the pits. At least for that incident, the one that we saw in the bus stop, that was about as good as you could hope. But unfortunately, it looks like something else has happened to him. Let's see if we catch it real quick here. Don't see any visible damage, but maybe some hot tires. Oh, and that's Terry Kiger Jr. losing a lot of time to Claybaugh behind, as those guys really didn't lose any time in that section. And you can see that now. Claybaugh just 7/10 behind Terry.
Yeah, all it takes is one little mistake to slow you down and let all these guys catch up to you.
And not even his mistake. That's what happens with multi-class racing, of course. So it's something that you benefit from and sometimes you don't. And Don McCloy there, it did bring it back out on track. So And actually, we do see Brad McCombs and Polite. So all three drivers involved in that big wreck early are still in the race. They have that fast repair. It's just about who lost the most time in that incident. But McCloy trying to fight back some spots here, and he knows that every position matters, and these all matter when it comes to the end of the season.
One thing about Don McCloy is he is calculating. He will slice these guys apart when the time is right. He was showing that he had the ability in practice. Now he's got to put it to work for him right here to get through these guys and get caught back up to the front runner P3s.
We do have Atticus Middleton, who just came into the pits, and I assume he's doing some damage repairs, maybe from something. I know there was a minor incident a little bit earlier, so maybe just getting that fixed. Was running up there in fourth. Dale Plotis now there in fourth. Had that incident on lap 1, but getting some credit from some larger wrecks in front of him and running in that fourth place spot right now.
Let's not discount Brad McCombs, who's already worked his way back up to fifth. He's come from behind at Daytona and Sebring. Let's see if he could do it again here. I mean, it's definitely like his weather, if you like. And
at the very least, he is ahead of his main competitor in Don McCloy and Nick Terrell not being here. So obviously the start of this race could have gone a lot better for him, but he's ahead of Paletti and he is ahead of McCloy. So there, McCloy on the screen as he's making his way through that field. Really, none of these GT3s not losing too much time, very smartly letting them take positions when they need. It looks like Claybaugh slow on that exit. Garcia has retaken second place, and it's going to be battled all the way up through the S's here. Don McCloy throwing a wrench into the works as well. Claybaugh having to chase down Vahil here, and it looks like he's running out about a little bit of steam on this attempt here to fight back. He'll safely taking that position there. Yeah, what were we going to say?
Like I was saying earlier, you got to be right on their bumper going all the way up the hill to have a shot at drafting into the bus stop like that. Aaron just didn't have it that time, but that doesn't mean he's not going to get the chance.
Yeah, a story, of course, of the whole season and a couple seasons prior has just been that the draft has been absolutely useless for these GT3 cars, so it's got to be done in that exit from turn 1. Like you said, the draft is not going to do much to help you get around. It may help you bring you maybe side by side, but it is not going to get it past done for you. Now as they're making their way through the heel, it does look like Vahil has pulled away a little bit from Claybaugh, but Claybaugh very smooth on the steering, understanding that this is a long race and these tires have to go a long way.
Right. The key right now is, now that the start's over and all the jitters are out, is to get your head down and drive. That's all these guys got to do. Of course, Don McCloy's making it a little bit tougher for these guys, but he'll be out through it soon enough. If these guys just keep their cool, they could have great races.
Here was the move Dan Real made on Tyler Langenberg, so you can see that huge pace advantage he has heading into the bus stop. Langenberg, I think, probably backing out of that one just as soon as Real had put a little bit of a nose ahead, knew that he was going to be losing out on that one. So as it stands right now with our overall standings, Nuremberg, Jeevan, Neri, and the LMP3, and those are the only 3 LMP3s ahead of any of the GT3s. The overall standings right now, as you can see there, every GT3 is between Neri in third and Brad McCombs, who has just passed Dan Plotis there for fourth, which is absolutely insane graphic to see, but it goes to show how hard the start of this race has been for the LMP3s and just how switched on the GT3s have been.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy to see, the very big gaps in P3, but then GT3 is all just bunched up right there, bumper to bumper.
Nicholas Paletti making his way around Dan Plotis as well there. So McCombs and Paletti staying close. Actually, Paletti has caught up a little bit, so it'll be interesting to see if that battle brews a little bit further as we get in a few laps. They are currently 4th, 5th, and have a lot to gain to get up to Neri there in third. closing in on the 15-minute mark soon. McDonald has been at the back of this pack for the last 4 or 5 laps or so, and it's hasn't been able to make a shake for a move yet, but has certainly looked competitive enough and has not let Newbie get out of his grasp. He's kept this within, at the most, half a second for this entire time.
It's still early on. A lot can happen. Jeff knows that. He could probably save himself some gas, drag out some laps just by hanging out, braking a little earlier, showing a little bit of patience. It might work out in his favor.
Yeah, that's a great point. We actually have seen that exact strategy work to great effect. Tyler Langenberg beat Terry Kiger Jr. and Terry's attempt to win every counted race in a season was unable to do so because of this Watkins Glen race where Langenberg won on fuel strategy. And that very well may be why we haven't seen McDonald really shake for a move, but he may be thinking about it now as Newbie has fallen back from Claybaugh a little bit, and McDonald's starting to lose touch of that podium if he really loses too much time.
That is the one downside of that strategy, is you can't let the leaders get too far away. If they start getting into that 3-second mark, you're going to have to make a move and get that time back.
These guys here, Claybaugh and Garcia, have been completely evenly matched for the start of this race. Traded positions a couple times, and despite all that, and obviously we saw Terry get a little bit of a slowdown from an instant ahead of him that these guys didn't quite get, but despite these guys battling, they have not really fallen off the back of Terry. We're now 10 laps in, and he's just 2 seconds ahead of him.
Well, like we said in qualifying, Terry's going to be the man to beat. He's got just a blistering pace. He's always consistent.
That was McDonald spinning in the background there in turn 1. Maybe shaking for a move and hits the curb. Let's see what happens. I think he just lost all arrow there as he got just too close to Newbie. Didn't touch him.
Yep, didn't touch him. The car just got upset there at the apex and that dip of turn 1, and it just kicked the car out.
Yeah, somehow he's down to 10th place. I mean, I know it's been a close field, but he must have been facing a really wrong way for him to try to rejoin that track safely, waiting for all the cars to make their way by. But that is a devastating loss of time there for McDonald, who at that point was fighting real close with Newbie for those top 5 positions.
Well, now he's going to have to take the gloves off, put in some work.
Yeah, he's going to have to actually try to make some moves here, as it looks like he just did so right there on Keith Roycroft. So already, and Roycroft losing a couple positions from that as well. Let's see what happens here. Oh, Roycroft so close to losing it there. I believe that's the heel, or the entrance to the boot, and I can't believe that he kept that on the track. Oh, and I think he and Kelly had a collision there as well in the apex of that corner.
That downhill left is real tricky. You can screw the exit up so easy by going out into the curb and touching some grass, and next thing you know, you're on the totally opposite side of the track.
Oh, something has had. We saw Keith Roycroft back there driving fine, but right as we cut it away, coming down into this corner here, something happens that sends him to the pits. Interesting. That was just a decision there to head to the pits. So Keith Roycroft out of this race, looks like, and we're gonna be able to see where some of the, I mean, he was up there getting some decent points, and unfortunately gonna have a bad race here today. And these guys up at the front not having a bad race so far, still sticking close to Terry. Actually have caught up over the last couple laps very slowly to that Terry car in front, and neither of these guys in the Porsche.
Which is really impressive to see, especially here at the Glen, which, you know, you want a car that trail brakes really nice. You want a car that rotates a little bit here. And, you know, the front engine BMW especially, I'm really impressed that Aaron is wheeling it like he is tonight.
Yeah, we obviously know that he probably, well, I guess with the new sun, maybe didn't put as much testing in as he normally does. I was gonna say normally we expect him and his teammates in the Doge squad to put in hours of testing beforehand and really know exactly which car to go with, but this may have been more of a instinct pick.
Maybe an old time's sake pick.
Yeah, he's done very well with it in the past. This is also Aaron Claybaugh's favorite track. It's his specialty track, and he's always had good success here. So, I mean, if anybody could do it here in any car, it absolutely would be Claybaugh.
Indeed.
Nicholas Paletti making his way through some of that GT3 traffic, and unfortunately his 4th position too, so maybe getting a little bit less notice for the cars in front, as they're not going to be getting the blue flags, but it is starting to finally break up that field as we take a look at the overall standings. You can see McCombs, Paletti, as he just makes his way around Berquist, now starting to pick their way through that GT3 traffic.
We've said it. We've seen it before. It's real hard with the even pace between GT3 and P3. Passing between the two classes is really hard. Nick and Brad both have got their work cut out for them, indeed.
At the front of the LMP3 field, Zach Nuremberger, after making his way through that incident safely, has been able to run away with this so far. We'll see how that continues to shape up for him. It was him and Jeevan and Neri that made it through clean, as well as a couple others who now have also had incidents of their own. But this is a bit of a gift of a first place, and we'll see if he's able to, for this remaining hour and 10 minutes, pull out that win. It wouldn't be his first win on the season. He's already got that win at Daytona. We'll see if he can get another one.
All Zach needs to do is stay calm and have himself a nice, quiet race. That's all he's got to do now. The hard work is done. He's just got to keep it where it's at.
It's his way around Dan Plotis there, I believe, and that is different laps between those two drivers. But looking very strong so far at the start of this race, and it's certainly nice that we've heard from the drivers that the tire wear is not nearly as much of an issue for the LMP3s as it is for some of the other cars, GT3s included. So despite this being a bit of a tire eater of a track, it may not be too much of a problem for these guys. Interested to hear, of course, and see that on the track as we get late into this race.
Yeah, we'll have to see at the pit stops whether or not the P3s take tires.
Sasha Kempter currently in 8th place. He's up 4, trying to claim 7th from Foreman, who's up 6 spots. Foreman up the most spots in the entire field between both classes right now, and certainly doing well. Qualified all the way back in 13th and is now in the top half of this field, despite really only a couple guys having some major incidents in the GT3s. I mean, this is purely on pace here for him. See a couple personal best laps being put in across the field there. Neri there with a personal best. He does have a pretty large gap to Jeevan in front, but he also has that large gap to McCombs behind. Now, McCombs, if we remember last time we brought it up, it was 50 or so seconds, I think, to Neri in front. He has now brought that down to 45, so he still has a lot to chip away, but he is certainly driving fast out there. And currently, 4th place would not be such a bad finish for him if this is really the worst it gets.
No, it'd be good enough points to take in, and like we said before, we've got drop weeks still. All the races count, of course, but, you want to try to get the highest position you can. And if Brad pulls out a 4th tonight, that's not a bad deal considering the start of the race for him.
GT3 field top 4 have not moved positions. They're exactly where they qualified in. Does not mean that they haven't had plenty of excitement. And actually, check this out. Look from Vahil's view. That is Terry right there. He's closed that. It was 2 seconds. Then we were talking about it when it was about 1.8. It is now 1 second. So these guys are catching up to the leader. right now, and I think probably because he has less of that pressure from behind from Clayball, just able to unleash a little bit more pace.
Yeah, being in the clean air helps a lot too. You don't have to worry about anybody being around you. You don't have to worry about any kind of aero wash on the car. You can just focus on driving.
That's interesting there. I'm interested to see the lap times when they come across, because that graph there showing the laps that are completed seems to indicate that a lot of the gain happened during this lap. So I don't know if there was maybe a very minor mistake that Terry had made out front or not. But Fahil with now 1.3 second gap. So Terry faster in that last section of the lap for sure.
Am I reading that right? Did Adrian put in a faster lap by 200ths?
Yeah, a couple hundredths faster. So he is certainly catching up. Looks like the first couple corners here were a little bit slower. I mean, the draft is not going to hurt his lap time here. It doesn't help you make a pass, but it can help you catch up a little bit. It's not going to make you slower.
Another thing, too, that we saw at Sebring was the Ferrari in particular likes the long straightaways. This track does have some very flat-out sections to it, and that might be an advantage for Mr. Garcia.
Terry would be well aware of that, as he just ran a 24-hour race with myself, Keith Roycroft, and Zach Nurnberger in that Ferrari at Spa. So plenty of long straights there to test it. So it's a familiar car he's looking at behind him there. And he had some pretty strong pace in that car, so he can do it all and everything, but always a fan of the Porsche there for himself.
Yeah, Terry's a diehard. What can you say?
Now, I don't think he has many happy things to say about the Lamborghini. Had some nightmares testing with that and doing our attempting a first race where it was one of the probably messiest races I think Terry's seen in a while. So luckily, second one went a little bit cleaner, and this one's gone quite clean for himself, as he has not really had to do anything except for avoid that one LMP3 car down into the boot. Has not been pressured yet behind, but we do see Vihil, of course, putting in the same type of pace. So 144.724 and a 144.676, just ever so slightly catching up as Claybach continues to fall back behind Garcia.
I think what we're seeing here is, a tale of two different cars. The Ferrari's got the straightaway speed, and the Porsche has got the mega cornering ability. You can kind of see it in the interval on the straightaways. Adrian's catching up, and in the fast corners, Terry's just kind of getting that back.
It does seem like every lap, Vihil faster there through the bus stop as well, and that one can be totally just up to driver. That's a very tough corner. It's really just a send it and pray kind of corner. Maybe not entirely dependent on a car's capabilities, and he seems to catch up there every single lap. And Terry pulling away in the little bit tighter section of the final part of this track.
The bus stop particular, it's all about how much curb you can get away with taking. We saw earlier on in the P3s, you can't take a whole lot. The GT3s are a little more forgiving. They can take more. So, it's all comes down to who's willing to roll the dice in that corner.
Speaking of forgiving there, those are not off tracks. That is allowed as far as iRacing's track limits there. So you'll see a lot of guys go wide there just to get a little bit more speed through that corner, and that is not an off track. You can go too wide here in this corner, and I think actually right there would have been a good example. I imagine Vihil picking up an incident point there as he had all four tires off that curb. This is Jeff McDonald here trying to get back some positions after that spin in turn one. We didn't see him pick up any damage. I think he just was having to wait for everybody to make their way by. So fully clean car, and now is trying to make up another spot. He's going to be in 8th if he gets this move done. It looks like that Mercedes has plenty of speed down that straight, though.
The Mercedes has always been a straight line car. It's just a monster down those straightaways.
This might be McDonald's opportunity here as he's staying quite close through these S's, has caught up a lot over the last couple laps, or 3 laps ago, and then kind of stalled out as he's had a difficulty making a move, and I don't know if this is close enough to make anything happen. He's going to have to follow through the bus stop here, clobbering those curbs, trying to get a better exit, but it looks about equal again between the two cars. McDonald there trying to sniff on the outside, but making your way on the outside here is going to be tough. Let's see if he attempts it. He's putting his car there, earning some room. Oh, and they get together in a big collision between the two. Kempter on the outside hitting the wall again. McDonald damage looks like to both front tires. If you ask me, the cars shouldn't have come together that way. That looked a bit unnatural.
It did look a little bit unnatural, but I was just about to say, going around the outside in turn 6, it's just not a good idea.
Yeah, even if they weren't supposed to come together that way, I don't think that Kempter, going around the outside, plenty dangerous for McDonald. I do think that he probably was close enough to earn that racing room there into the corner, and I don't think that he was quite given that room. I mean, the wall is just there on the exit, on the outside of that curve. There's not a lot of room to go off track there. If you go out wide, you're hitting the wall, and I have plenty of experience doing that there.
2, you got to think, that Mercedes that was ahead of him, who was that, Burnquist? Or no, Kempner.
Yes, Kempter.
So Kempner's Mercedes, it could have been pushing all the way out on that exit. He's just trying to carry all the speed he can. It's a front engine car. They don't like that downhill, decreasing radius corner like that. And they do have a history of, kind of pushing their way to the outside of the track. And that could have just happened, and our man Jeff McDonald here was just at the wrong place at the wrong time.
Yeah, that corner is the perfect recipe for some understeer, absolutely. Typically ends up being the problem for anybody that has an incident there, provided they don't just hit that curb early, because it is a bit of a late apex. But Kempter there into the pits. McDonald had the chance to go in the pits. Looks like he's going to try to brave it until he gets into the pits, the pit area for the pit strategy. But it doesn't look like it's affecting his pace massively. It does look like the car's handling okay, but it doesn't look pretty.
No, it's definitely not winning any awards for show.
Here's Andrew Neri, has an incident. I don't know what is going on there. Andrew Neri was running in third, and he's towed.
Looked like he just pulled off the track.
He was running there in the podium positions. That was the position that Brad McCombs was 40 seconds back from, and now Brad is in the podium spot, despite and Paletti himself in fourth, despite the horrific wreck at the start of this race. They got a minute to go to get to Jeevan ahead, but that's just sticking it out, staying in the race has paid off for both of those guys. McCloy as well there in fifth too.
We've still got a whole lot of racing left. That nothing is over yet. And like we said earlier, this is Brad's climate. He's come back on 2 separate races, both at Daytona and Sebring, for a win and a podium, I believe, at Daytona.
Yeah, a lot of pit stops that we have there for the LMP3s. Jeevan coming in the pits, Plotus, Neri. And then Christopher Newby in the GT3s using that opportunity to do so as well. The GT3s can go a little bit longer, but it doesn't take them out of the fuel strategy or pit strategy to do so, which would make you think that Jeff McDonald would likely hope to pit soon and get that damage repaired, but he may not know how bad it is.
Sometimes it's hard to tell, it's more cosmetic than actual mechanical. If he's able to keep, a 44 lap time going, I wouldn't pit if I were him.
Brad McCombs there, last lap time of 1:38.813, fastest on the track so far. So fastest guy on the track continues to speed up. He's been pulling away from Nicholas Paletti behind. He's now dragged that out to a 7-second gap in this fight for third. And if anything happens to the couple guys ahead, of course, he gets brought into this conversation depending on the incident. With an hour to go, just under an hour to go, it will be difficult to catch that up on pace. But McCombs certainly one of the few drivers that would be able to do so. There we go. Jeff McDonald into the pits. As anticipated, John Kelly into the pits as well. So we got a couple guys there. Don McCloy putting in a personal best of 139.3. So again, a plenty fast driver. Just goes to show really what kind of planet Brad McCombs is living on right now with that low 38.
Yeah, I think once he gets around this lap traffic, he's just going to open it up and try to take out as much as he can. We also don't know if he just took repair.
Okay, so that is, I think Jeevan came into the pits. Okay, so that shows about he was about 55. So we're looking at about a 55 second pit loss on that pit stop. So Jeevan losing the spot to McCombs. McCombs has technically made a pit stop, but it was just lap 2. So he's still gonna have a lot to catch up to Jeevan there, despite passing him on track. And actually, Paletti, I think maybe listening to the broadcast, putting himself on the same planet as Brad McCombs, and actually now exceeding that time with a 138.5. Now the new fastest guy on track.
That 138.5 was faster than the 138.8 he put in practice, so he's definitely picking up some pace.
It's always been fun to see these Olympic threes just continue to get faster throughout the whole race. I think that's one of my favorite qualities of them is we can just continue to see the times drop and more purple times set as we get later. And Berquist here trying to keep up with Leonardo Elijah in a battle for 7th place as it stands. You know, looking at that manufacturer kind of display there for all those, it looks like the Porsche dominance, not dominant, but the Porsche popularity is going away a little bit. I think more drivers are tending. We see 4 Ferraris out there, for example.
Well, one thing about the Pony Express League that I've always enjoyed, especially when you're in the GT3 car class where there's a variety of cars available to you, is you don't always have to stick with the one car. You know, certain tracks favor certain car formats, engine layouts, etc. Maybe our guys are starting to remember that, hey, Ferrari used to be really fast here. I'm going to run that. Or, hey, I've done really well in the BMW here. I'm going to run that instead of the Porsche.
A little too pricey for me personally. I gotta stick with a car. You gotta stick with it. Doesn't matter. Andrew Neri there having an incident, and what looked like we thought like he was out of this race. He had pulled off and towed, and maybe we're about to see a similar incident. Not really sure. Oh, that's a veritable crash there.
Again, too much curb.
Yeah, LMP3s do not like the curbs here. That has been a consistent storyline through every track we've gone to so far. And it's just constantly unsettling these cars as they run pretty low, and they have just so much weight balance that's, especially under braking, is just really, really tough to keep a hold of.
Well, I was speaking with our race leader, Zach Nurberger, before the race started, and one of the things he was saying was when the rear end of the P3 unloads, it's game over. It's good night. The car does not like it. It'll do whatever it wants. It gets real twitchy. So I think our P3 drivers, if they can keep that in mind and master that, they're going to have real good races, probably like Zach's having now.
Yeah, the bad news is the rear end unloads every time you brake. So that's where the difficulty lies, is every time you got to make a stop, you have to be aware of keeping that car on the track. Vihil, I'm not sure what's happened to Calgary in this last lap here, but Vihil has brought this down to a half second and is actually pressuring Terry for the first time here in this race.
I wonder if we're not maybe seeing a little bit of tire wear coming out of Terry's car. The front end's not gripping up like it should, costing him a little bit of time.
Yeah, I mean, looking at the track, I doubt that there was any traffic unless there was a car that just like totally wrecked out of the picture. But we have seen a couple incidents over these last couple laps, so potentially Terry involved in avoiding that again, which does seem to often be his undoing.
Well, if you talk to Terry, everybody's wrecking in front of him all the time.
Yeah, that spa race, like I said with the Lamborghini, that was true. That really was a madhouse. Vahil, though, pulling to the outside. Terry Kiger Jr. blocking that off. Wasn't quite close enough going to the braking zone. There, nose to tail as they come through the exit. Not sure if Terry's going to let him come on the inside here. And, Vahil's going to have a difficult time making a pass. It seems like it would be an easy track to pass on, but there's really just not that many opportunities.
Well, there can be, but you got to set them up like 3 or 4 corners in advance.
And as long as Terry, sees it coming, he can do a lot to try to mitigate those passing advantages. As we see a Derrial there in and out of the pits. Currently in 9th place, running well. This is about the gap that we saw between these two last lap. So Brad McCombs there. Okay, so he's now making his pit stop for the fuel. A little bit wide there for Vahil. A little bit scary there on the curbs. All safe, though. Currently, James Foreman there in 5th. Oh, both into the pits. Okay. Currently, James Foreman here, leader of the B class. He's actually just 1.8 seconds behind Tyler Langenberg there. He's got a car between the two of Nicholas Paletti, but running really well. He's up 8 spots and leading this B class despite, again, not a lot happening in front as far as big wrecks. He's made this on pace. He's made this on the track, and it's been a good showing for him so far, and he's going to come to the pits as well. So it looks like these GT3s, this is where we're at, is 24 laps.
James Foreman's having a nice quiet race, and that's exactly what you want here. You don't want a lot of drama. You don't want a lot of excitement.
Ryan Jeevan here, outside of course, avoiding that big wreck there in turn 2. Also been pretty free of drama. Has had to deal with just making his way through some GT3 traffic. Other than that, he obviously kept it close to Nürburgring for the first couple laps. Has fallen back a little bit, but doesn't have any pressure from behind. Paletti's 50 seconds back after they've both made their pits, and Brad McCombs. Well, that's interesting. Brad McCombs was right. He was like 50 seconds back, and now he's more. Now he's a minute 20.
Looks like Nick might have jumped him in the pits a little bit
by 30 seconds. Yeah, that's what I can't figure out.
Or has Nick pit?
I think. Let's see the pit stretch. I'm a little confused here. Paletti has pit. He pit the lap before, and McCombs just now made that pit stop. But I don't know why McCombs would have lost so much time. He was 7 seconds ahead of Paletti before they both pit. Now he's 30 seconds behind. I don't understand.
Bad pit exit, maybe. Who knows?
We'll have to see if maybe we get our answer. Paletti's here, making his way down the home stretch. Oh, and Don McCloy just had an incident. Daniel Pelotas just took the position on him there. It's all normal so far. Here we go. There's that left-hander.
Looks like he got a bit of twinge oversteer at the beginning of the corner and just overcorrected it.
Yeah, I was too late at that point. Once he had that, I think he really had no chance. And that is Terry Kiger Jr., and he is passing Aaron Claybaugh there in the pits. And Tyler Langenberg has still not come in for a pit stop.
We've seen it before out of Langenberg where he's made these massive long runs on fuel.
He was, before this pit cycle, running in 5th place. So already doing well. See if that is able to get him a couple positions. Obviously up 5 there. Still has to make that pit, but an impressive showing so far with that fuel strategy, as we saw pretty much everybody pit 2 laps ago, let alone him up here, who I would have to assume he comes in here at this lap, though.
It's got to be getting close for him.
Trying to take a listen to his engine note, see if he's doing any heavy lifting. I don't think he really is. I think this has been a lot of planning throughout this whole stint so far. But this is going to take him 44 minutes in. It's unfortunately going to be, I wonder if maybe the idea was see if he could possibly single stop this race. This is going to be just a little, well, actually, it will be short of the halfway mark until he's out of the pits. And then it's not. Then he's going to be past the halfway mark. So he may be trying to one-stop this as he pits right about at the halfway mark of this race.
One stop is going to be a challenge.
I am excited to see if he's able to do it.
Even if he's not able to do it, he still could have a very small splash at the end that could just keep him out front.
Yeah, this can still pay off well for him regardless. And obviously, losing those positions there as drivers make their way through. So he was in fifth. He's fifth. He's waiting to get going again. And Real has now taken the spot from him. He's still sitting still here. I wonder what is going on. Okay, so he's out. Going to be coming out in sixth, maybe seventh. We'll see how he compares to Jeff McDonald here. McDonald coming down the main stretch, and Langenberg coming out of the pits. Looks like Langenberg will be ahead of McDonald. So sixth place, but potentially a game-breaking, game-winning fuel strategy if everything pans out. Foreman here behind Curry. I think we just saw Curry come out of the pits as well. And Foreman has a lot of pace here. Not really trying to, he's already backing off. Not trying to make that move there. I think if he was feeling a little antsy late in this race, that would have been a move he tried to make. But we're barely past that halfway point and trying to keep it safe still.
It's at the halfway point, you don't really want to make those kind of moves. Do we know if Richard Curry has made his pit stop yet? Is he doing a Langenberg strategy where he's trying to stay out as long as he can?
I think we saw him in the pits when Langenberg came in, but that maybe it was a car that looked similar. But if we look at the pits, okay, that must have been a similar looking car because Curry pit 10 laps ago. So he actually was one of the first drivers to make that first pit stop. Unless that was for damage. That was a pretty early stop for the strategy. I doubt out of the window, but just most of the drivers doing it in that between 3 and 6 laps ago kind of range.
Right. Could be one of those where you try to divide it up evenly and shorten your stints a little bit. You suffer a longer pit time doing that, but you also get to kind of stay out longer at the end on track.
I don't know what happened to Vihil, but we saw him nose to tail heading into the pits, and he is now 7 seconds behind Terry and in threat of losing that second place spot to Claybaugh. So coming into the pits just 3 laps ago, we saw him side by side basically, and I don't know what caused that loss of time and if that came in the pits or not, but he is now struggling. There's damage on Vihil's car in the rear left. Look at that. You can see the exposed wheel.
Yep, that quarter panel is definitely bashed in.
I never saw that pop up anywhere, so I don't know what caused that incident, but just after that pit stop, he must have got some damage. Meanwhile, in the LMP3 class, now Don McCloy, Andrew Neri, Mark Dillon Jr., they're out of this race. I think Atticus Middleton, he's stuck in the pits right now doing some repairs, from what I believe. And then Vernon Markheim didn't even take the start, so only 5 cars in from this original 10-car class.
That's a shame about Don McCloy especially. I mean, he had the real consistent pace this evening. He was definitely one to watch out for tonight.
I would love to know what happened to Garcia. It was not big enough to trigger any sort of event popping up on my end, so he still maybe the time has just truly been a slow bleed. He was half a second slower than Claybaugh there on that lap, as it's probably a little bit tougher to handle with that damage, although you'd much rather have damage on the rear than the front generally. Generally
speaking, yeah, the rear is a little bit better, but still in the end, with the cars so close in pace, any aerodynamic disadvantage turns into a disadvantage.
Oh, clay ball there on the inside of the outer loop. What a send through. He sized it up after the bus stop. He's not going to have the move quite done yet, but he's going to have it on the outside, and I think it's going to be tough for Vahil to fight it down the inside here. Vahil is fighting all the way. Clayball giving him room, maybe fighting for another switchback. What a defense to get that spot back for Vahil.
That was some great racing right there.
I was going to say it seemed like Clayball maybe should have actually sent it. He went for a dummy down that straight into the bus stop and then abandoned it, but I think he actually had that overspeed to get it done if he really wanted. That is Ryan Jeevan there trying to lap these cars behind. And Ryan Jeevan still running in that second place spot, 40 seconds advantage to Paletti behind. Clayball maybe cooling off a little bit, setting up for another attempt in the next couple laps. Curry had some incident here. Oh, man.
That was really odd. He was on the curb, which hasn't been a problem, but it just kicked him off. So weird.
I think that he may have grabbed the grass right there. Or, yeah, well, I don't think the car ever settled. It was just bouncing around.
Yeah, it looks like when it grabbed, it just decided to spin.
Fortunate result there for him. Clayball letting Jeevan go by. Going to use this draft and try to catch up a little bit and to make back that last time. Jeff McDonald close to Tyler Langenberg as well. Langenberg potentially doing a totally different fuel strategy, and McDonald trying to recover from that spin in turn one many laps ago.
Who knows with Tyler Langenberg's strategy, he might want Jeff McDonald ahead of him so he can just drag those laps out of him.
Yeah, I mean, if that's the strategy he's going for, it doesn't matter if Jeff passes him. If you can save, which Langenberg was still driving plenty quick. If you can save that much fuel and you can make it on the one stop, there is really no amount of pace that's going to make up for that, just given the amount of time that you lose in the pits. So we'll see if that is what he does, try to purposely lets him by. He's not doing it so far. And then I believe it's Plotis there trying to pick his way through the field as well. Oh, Vahil incident for him. Ryan Jeevan an incident as well. Let's check Jeevan's incident first. Oh, they're involved. It's related. It's Jeevan on the inside of Vahil. And Vahil kind of just maybe he didn't know he was there.
Yeah, I don't know. If I was driving in second place, I don't know if I would have made the move Jeevan made. I think I might have waited.
They're both in second. They both were in second place, too. That's what's wild. Both these guys certainly fighting really hard. It doesn't look like really either one picked up too much damage, lost some time. That leaves Jeevan still okay as he's got 34 seconds behind Paletti now. But that has dropped Vahil down to fifth place. Clayball elevated to second, and Cowger now elevated to a 10-second gap.
It also bumped up Christopher Newby to third overall in the GT3 class.
Yeah, he's had a bit of a quiet race there, and up one from where he qualified. Now in third, I believe fourth highest qualifying that he's had on the season as well. And so a strong showing already throughout this entire day, and it just continues to improve for him. You see here Jeff McDonald doing his best to make that move on Langenberg, and is not able to do it. These guys not fighting for a lot in front. Langenberg 14 seconds back from Vahil on. Maybe he is driving a little bit slow, trying to save that fuel, because I think that's a larger gap than he had before the pit cycle. So it may still be losing enough time. He certainly seems like he's kind of letting him go there. I can't really tell.
It was so hard to tell. I mean, he gave him plenty of room running on the outside like that.
Yeah, definitely backed off there heading into that corner. So a bold strategy potentially for Tyler, but this may be slow enough that it may not actually benefit him. But interested to see. He put that first stint in pretty quick, and maybe he's just overcompensating here at the start just in case of a unlucky white flag, because of course you could have an extra lap or not, and it's going to be totally random, and it'll be clear as we get to the end of the race.
That's the one thing that's hard to cover up, is when that white flag flies, because it never flies when you want it to.
So Jeevan there coming into the pits, I imagine maybe repairing, he would have had at least just some minor damage from that incident that we saw. And I do think that he still keeps him on strategy, though.
Well, what's interesting is it said Nick's in the pit, too. I wonder what that's about.
Yeah, so if Paletti's coming into the pits and we didn't see any incident from him, then this must be still within the strategy and a safe time to make that stop. Al here is one of our highest climbers so far in this field, is B-class driver, and is up 4 spots, is now in 4th overall, and the next closest B-class driver is James Foreman there in 8th, who has also made up a lot of spots his own, but like that's a very nice advantage that Dan Real has coming into this. Dan Real has had some strong pace in a lot of these races earlier in the season, and then he's got 2 poles, but some things usually come undone, and so far working really well for him as we're closing in on that 1 hour mark.
Daniel Real's in a great position right now, Zach. He's got no pressure. All he's got to do is just keep turning the laps, just keep them fast, keep them consistent, and the race could be in the bag.
Yeah, the part that's even better for him is his 2 drivers in the B class that are ahead of him in the standings. He's 3rd for B class, 13th overall. The 2 drivers ahead, Avi Vishvasham and Roger Schenk, both not here at this race. So necessarily he's going to gain some advantage on those guys, despite, of course, the drop week's going to be factored in after this week. But it does also mean that he pulls away from his competitors behind with Richard Curry and Leonardo Elijah, guys who are here. And this is just a good showing for him so far, and it would be great to maybe even get a podium, because he's just a couple seconds off of newbie as he lets Zach Nuremberger, race leader, go through there. And Zach Nuremberger, as I just mentioned, not a lot to talk about with how his race has gone so far. He's got 45 seconds now. Of course, Jeevan has made that second pit stop, but Jeevan lost a lot of time in that incident and was already 15 or so seconds back. So this, I don't want to jinx anything, but this does seem to be shaping up to be a quote unquote easy win for Zach Nuremberger, as he avoided that monstrous wreck at the start of this race. And if he can just keep it on track, I mean, he doesn't even really have to drive that fast to take it to the end here.
I was going to say, we probably shouldn't jinx him.
Yeah, he's most prone to being jinxed, though. I'll probably take the camera off him to avoid anything happening. Terry's often been immune to jinxing, however, and he is still up here in the front. Has lost, I think, a little bit of time to Claybaugh behind, but not enough that really should be any worry so far, as you can't really even see him down the road. 7 seconds. Claybaugh has been involved in plenty of battling, and Calgary's really only been pressured once.
So Garcia's incident aside, both cars pit at the same time. We saw most of the GT3s get tires. I can only assume that Terry took tires. Once he got that new rubber on the car, his pace picked way back up. So I really do think what we were seeing earlier before the pit stop was Terry's tires just falling off and affecting his lap times.
Yeah, easy to do at this track, and especially when you're driving as fast as he is up there at the front. But now certainly more free to drive the track as he pleases here in this second stint. When you drive it, regardless of how fast you are in qualifying, you still start just in front of the guy behind you. It doesn't matter what you did. You're going to be nose to tail. So had to definitely put a lot more into the tires early on in that first stint, but gets to maybe relax a little bit more here in this one and potentially take the tires to the end.
He's probably going to have to take the tires to the end because you want to keep that last little splash and dash pit stop, just that, but just a splash. You just want to get in, get out, get on with life.
The only question would be just maybe if you just wanted to take a tire or two, although I haven't really seen that be the strategy for, or at least the winning strategy for a lot of the guys in the GT3s over the last few seasons. I know it used to be a big thing with the GTEs was taking, you know, a number of tires less than 4, but here in this kind of framework for these GT3s, it's typically all or nothing.
The tires have changed a lot over the years. They improved. Going all the way back to the GTE days, when we used to do that stuff, it was because that was the end of the car we were working hardest on track.
Right now, Foreman working hard to catch up to Langenberg as Langenberg continues to drop back from McDonald a little bit, although, I mean, McDonald's very fast, but again, just makes you wonder if, he's really dropping a lot fast. I think this is the fuel strategy prediction may be true. It is starting to get a little hairy, though, as we still have 30 minutes to go, and the amount lost to a pit stop, it's starting to get to that point that he is going to lose more time just saving the fuel. But interested to see how it turns out as we continue further. But with that 1 hour mark there, I think it's probably a good time to take just a few minute break. So we will be right back with you as we return to this action. right, and we are back as we see Brad McCombs 4 now on the track, has taken that spot from Ryan Jeevan, has yet to make that second stop, while Jeevan has, though, plenty as well. So we'll see where that shakes him out once he does come in to make that stop. Oh, and it looks like, right as I say that, potentially another incident for Vahil in this difficult left-hander. I actually surprised we haven't seen more incidents here.
And that's classically what you see coming out of turn 9 as the rear end just gets away from you and into the Armco you go.
Yeah, there's a bit of a crest there in the track, and if you're too far on the inside, too hard on the steering, it's very easy to just spin the car there, and frequently people will do it on lap 1 and create a car park, as there's just not, there's no room to get your car turned around there, even if you don't suffer any damage.
You always end up in the middle when you lose it there.
Unfortunately, he was in the middle and had some pretty bad damage to that car. As you saw the entire front bumper fall off. Should still have a fast repair to use, although it does look like he is out of this race, so I think that he maybe has called it quits here. And will be coming home from this race in 11th, so was fighting real hard for that first place spot, and is now going to be outside of the top 10.
Heartbreaking.
James Foreman has been pushing to try to catch Langenberg here for quite a while here. Langenberg losing time to McDonald in front, but unfortunately, Foreman yet to be able to make a strong move on it. He's up 6 spots, and that would put him up 7, and he's currently tied with Elijah for most spots gained. Jeevan into the bus stop.
Oof, that was a hard hit.
Well, if you wanted to know what an LMP3 engine looks like, you got one right there. He's completely, I don't know if, I think he knows his rear wheel's gone, or rear wing's gone, but I'm not sure he understands the entire cover's gone. It was not a huge collision. But that's probably a meatball, and that may be another pit stop here for him. This brings Paletti and McCombs now into that conversation for being able to get third, if that is the case. So let's see here. It looks like he's going to be taking that pit. I imagine he's required to. That's enough damage to require that. So then Paletti only 11 seconds behind as they come into this section here. So obviously Paletti's going to take this spot, and he's already made his pit stop, so that's for position. That may end up being a second place at the end of this race, despite starting from pole and having a monstrous crash, losing everything, going all the way to the back of the field, and out finding his way all the way back up to second again.
Hey, a second place after a start like Nick had at the beginning of the race, I'd take that any day of the week.
Yeah, it's been an incredible showing of just resilience, sticking it in there, and certainly putting in some real fast lap times. We look at our fastest laps so far for these drivers. You can see Paletti is the LMP3 driver with the purple lap with the 138.5. That was a long time ago. They actually really haven't been able to speed up much since then. And Terry Kiger Jr. in the GT3 field, first place and with the fastest lap. So, and not only that, he's led almost every lap for that GT3 class as well.
I don't think anybody's gotten around Terry. If they did, it was only briefly in the pits. It was Langenberg that got around him on his strategy, right?
Yeah, Langenberg went a couple laps longer than Terry did, so that's his potential strategy call, and it is now. But you look at it there, and the gap between the two, between Terry in first and Tyler there in fourth, is now in the high 30s, and a full pit stop is a loss of 50 seconds.
The gap might just be too much to overcome on pit stop strategy alone, but Tyler could decide to turn it on a little bit and take some of that time out in sheer pace.
Yeah, absolutely could do that. I mean, it's just may have been a bit of a lofty goal early. I still think he may be trying to do that. James Foreman staying about the same gap behind, and Langenberg continuing to fall back from Newby. It's now 25 seconds between the two.
And if we're being honest with each other, James doesn't really have anything to gain by passing Tyler. He needs to just run his race and take his win.
Yeah, he's the current standing leader for the B class in the 5th overall, but first for the B class, and has a very healthy 20 seconds ahead of Daniel Real, who is the spot behind. So, of course, 20 seconds doesn't mean anything because a position's a position, but that's still points gained on arrival there. And James Foreman looking to have some strong results here. I think that this may actually be his first race this season. I don't see him on the standings, and I just so used to seeing him around. Yeah, I think this may actually be his first race here, at least according to the standings page.
I think you're right, Zach. Foreman wasn't he having some problem? Didn't he like break his thumb or something and was out of racing for a little while?
There was someone. I think Christopher Craig. Well, I know Christopher Craig. He got bit by a dog, I think, and had an injury that he's dealing with right now. I don't specifically remember, so interested to hear from him if he comes across here as the winner, and exactly what happened so far. But it's been a good little debut here for the seasoned veteran. Hear there how much they have to lift off in that corner just to avoid that understeer. You push too much on the throttle there, and it's just going to push you outside to the edge of the track. So certainly a place that you want to abandon some lap time just to survive this race for 90 minutes. They've now gotten under 20 minutes to go. Not a whole lot longer for these guys.
We should be looking at the splash and dash window here soon, and to see if Tyler's strategy is going to pay off.
Yeah, I think really the couple main things that we're watching here is is Tyler's strategy going to work for him? Currently 37 seconds back from the lead. And then also, is Brad McCombs in his pit stop going to lose the position to Nicholas Paletti or not? Because it's really between those two on really who gets second, third from at least just running the mental math. But it seems like it might be kind of close. Paletti already has made his stop, and McCombs has a 30-second advantage on him, but again, has to come in for that stop, and I would imagine that's going to be around 30 seconds or so.
The thing that hurts the most here is you have to really sacrifice turn 11 to get a reasonable pit entry. There's guys that can do it fast, but they're few and far between, and that can cost you a lot of time just getting into the pit.
Well, Ryan Geeman there has not let the couple incidents he's had crush his spirit, as he puts in a personal best there in that previous lap after getting that car repaired there. Rear's back, rear panel back on the car, rear wing back on. So able to go full speed, and it does look like he's back up there. And again, Zach Nuremberger here, running up here at the front, has done quite well. Lap time, of course, McCombs has been faster, but it's just not fast enough. And both these guys, I don't think, have made their pit yet. But 37 seconds over 17 minutes, it's just not going to happen without Nuremberger having a big incident. Aaron Claybaugh, though, putting in a purple lap, though.
I was going to say, speaking about Zach Nuremberger, looking at his laps, they're super consistent, and that's really key, especially later on in the race. He's turning good, solid lap times, all within a few tenths of each other. He's staying out of trouble. That's the way you want to run a race.
Look at this lap comparison here. As now over, not only does Claybaugh then there put the fastest lap of the race in, but 5 straight laps now that he has caught up to Terry by at least some amount. We can see the gap continue to drop as it was over 5.5 seconds just 5 laps ago. Now it's down to under 4. Is Terry just taking it a little bit easy, or does Claybaugh have extra in the tank right now?
It's hard to say. Terry could, maybe have sacrificed his tires a little bit. Who knows? But Aaron's definitely turning it on. He's not going to go quietly into that good night.
About half of that gap that he had just 5 laps ago already gone. We're certainly going to have more than 5 laps to go in this race, but not a whole lot more than that. So this pace that he's been catching up at, he needs to continue that pace if he wants that shot at making the move. You can see there on this lap has done so, has caught up. It looks like, I think, 0.4 or so. Let's see, a 44.6 for Terry, and then following behind Claybaugh with a 44.3. So actually just under 3/10.
And 0.3 is quite a bit, especially when you're running him down. I mean, they're getting the interval down to 3 or 4 seconds.
A little bit of traffic behind as he lets Brad McCombs through. And Brad McCombs flying through this track as him and Nicholas Paletti have been trading times in which they're the fastest guy on track, despite having to fight back from both really being last place at the end of lap 2.
Well, that's really a tense situation right there.
Yeah. Brad McCombs is maybe not racing somebody on track, but he's aware of the situation on Paletti having already made a stop. He hasn't, so he can't really afford to be going very slow, despite the fact that you can't see anybody he's racing right now.
Right, it's coming down to strat. Brad's got to be thinking, I got to go as fast as possible and build as much gap to Nick as I can just to make that last splash maybe work.
You can see there he has done so. The gap has increased over time. It was about 26 seconds 5 laps ago, when we're now looking at nearly 32 seconds between the two. So again, McCombs is driving so fast, and it's just down to how much can he pull ahead before he comes in for that pit stop, because it does look like really nobody else on the track has an answer for him right now. Oh, there he is. Okay, Brad McCombs in the pit lane. So now we get the answer. As Brad McCombs comes in, we've got the camera on Nicholas Paletti. He's coming in, exiting the boot now through that left-hander. And we'll see it should be short stop.
Close.
Paletti approaching the final corner, making the turn. Brad McCombs still not on pit exit. That's Brad McCombs there at the end of the pit lane. So Paletti will be ahead, and McCombs just now leaving. So that was actually a little bit longer than I think we had anticipated, given how little's left in this race. I don't know if maybe he had to or accidentally took tires, but now that is about 4.7 seconds. That's still doable based on how much he was pulling away from Paletti before that pit stop.
If Brad can keep the heat, in his lap times and keep the pace up, he's definitely got a shot. We've seen last lap passes for a position here numerous times in the past.
Gap between Langenberg in third and Calgren first is now up to 42 seconds. Again, with a full pit stop being 50 seconds or so, 50 or 55 seconds. I have to imagine that this is the win is out of reach, and he probably just has to worry more about James Foreman behind, because again, even the 38 seconds, I'm not sure this last splash and dash takes that long.
I don't think it does, Zach. I think maybe Tyler's strategy might have blown up a little bit. I think he was taking it a little too easy after the first stop.
Yeah, I mean, of course, a third place if this is what he finishes in, and he keeps that defense up from Foreman behind. Not a bad result. He's up 3. He started in 6th, finishing in 3rd in a GT3 race where not a lot of guys have made a mistake. But yeah, the strategy call may not have been at least the optimal pick.
And being in Tyler Langenberg's position, it's worked for him in the past. No reason to believe it wouldn't work in the future. Just didn't quite pan out this time, I just don't think.
Well, again, Paletti, I think, hearing me. when I talk about Brad McCombs being unrivaled in pace out there on the track, putting in another purple lap there as Brad McCombs now suddenly threatening from behind as he was just 4 seconds back. And on that out lap, to be fair, it's an out lap. Brad McCombs getting his tires to temp, but he was able to get almost a second on Brad from behind. That was just a little bit of lack of focus. I mean, I can't say I haven't done that during practice. It just looks like he forgot.
Yeah, I don't know what that was.
I think he was looking at something else, and I wouldn't blame him. Done it plenty. Some guys out here are running 4 and 5 screens.
Right, and it's so hard in endurance racing. You really got to have.
Oh no, Terry Cocker Jr. crashed. Let's see what this is. I don't know if this is as major as it seems. Terry Cocker Jr. crashing into the wall, and that's Aaron Claybaugh. Aaron Claybaugh takes the lead as Terry has to wait for a couple cars to go by, and he back into the wall again.
Oh, is he gonna have to come in and get that fixed? Oh, it looks kind of like it.
Let's see here. Terry is in the pits, and this is Tyler Langenberg, who is in third and trying to get second from Terry. And now, I mean, the Aaron Claybaugh has a home run win here if he just keeps it on track. Terry still not on the pit exit. May lose 2 spots here to both Tyler and James. Yeah, he is. That's him. He's on pit exit now. Tyler's through. James is through. And now Tyler may be a little bit worried about his. Now this is when his strategy may kind of bite him, because he's got to keep the pace up here.
I was gonna say, if there's a time to turn up the pace, it is now.
We have 9 minutes to go, and definitely first place out of touch for Terry. But Terry's close to the next 2 guys here. He's only in 4th place. Now has that new car, and now just has 3.5 seconds to go to James Foreman ahead, who James Foreman has been pressuring Langenberg for the last, 15 laps maybe?
Yeah, it's been a long time that James has been hanging out there watching Tyler's rear end. Who knows what he's up to. Might just be hanging out, might be time to put the pressure on.
That's Ryan Jeevan there, trying to make his way through. Terry trying to drive as fast as humanly possible. Getting slowed down a little bit there in that corner. Obviously, would prefer no cars behind at all to slow him down, and it did cause him to lose a few tenths to James in front.
Yeah, that was so weird that he lost it coming out of turn 10 like that. It just is like the rear end just went away on him. I don't know what happened.
I mean, it could be tire wear issues. Again, we saw him slowing down at the end of that first stint, so maybe the Porsche really just kind of beating up the tires here at this track. But yeah, I don't think we've really seen anybody have an incident there, which is what made it really interesting. We've seen incidents at a lot of other places on this track, but that was a first for this race at least. James Foreman now coming in the pits, so abandoning that attack on Langenberg. If Langenberg is able to stretch it out, I mean, it's going to be tough to stay ahead of this 4.3 seconds, but maybe he's saved enough already. I don't know.
It's all going to come down to balance between, overall lap time pace and, fuel consumption, I think, for Tyler.
So Foreman into the pits and is now coming out. Bergquist into the pits. This is definitely a late splash and dash for a lot of these guys, and still a lot have not come in yet who we anticipate to do so. Aaron Claybaugh, I don't think he hasn't made his stop either, but of course we don't have to. He had already passed Terry before Terry even got in the pit, so that's not a worry about him re-losing that first place position unless he makes a mistake coming into the pits.
Yeah, I think what it's going to boil down to is what happens to Tyler Langenberg, especially when it comes to Terry's position.
We have now 6 minutes and 20 seconds to go in this race. Obviously, we've been seeing the lap times in just a little bit ahead of a minute and a half. So if my math's correct, this either 5 or 6 laps to go. Not a whole lot, and not a lot of time to be doing some makeup. Right now, Terry Kyer Jr. 4 seconds back from Tyler Langenberg. Brad McCombs 5.5 seconds back from Nicholas. But as I say that, somehow a whole half second was lost. I don't know if Paletti's dealing with traffic or he just lost half a second while I was saying those words. Was 5.5 seconds. Now it's down to 4.7. I don't know what happened there. Time was lost, and it's still going to be, Brad has to be a lot faster still to catch up here at the end of this race, but it is doable, especially considering you see Paletti here coming up. Well, actually, that is his teammate, so his teammate, I doubt, will give him too much trouble despite being in first place.
Yeah, they both got a lot to lose. I'm pretty sure Aaron will yield to faster traffic, especially for Nick.
Zach Nurnberger still sit up there in first. So right by Tyler Langenberg there. And he has a 1 minute gap to Paletti behind. So I think still has to make a splash and dash. It doesn't matter. A minute gap is very safe. And it's been a well-run race for him. Obviously got that first place from the incident ahead, but had a good qualifying spot as well. Was in 4th place in qualifying and did a good job to avoid that wreck. He went on the inside, and that was the smart move to do. And sometimes just all you need to do is just have a good first couple laps. I know they say the race isn't won in the first lap, but sometimes it actually is.
Hey, the race may not be won on the first lap, but it could definitely be lost. Another thing that I'm really impressed by with Zach is that he's just run a really clean, consistent race all night long. Stayed out of trouble, kept his X's low, off tracks, just stayed out of trouble, ran a really great race.
Aaron Claybaugh, did we just... got 10 seconds to Tyler Langenberg behind. His last lap was a 1:56. He didn't make a pit. Something, I don't know what happened there. Something happened to Claybaugh to lose a lot of time. Maybe he's maybe he's just trying. I think maybe he thinks saving the fuel to the end is the better call, as opposed to coming in for the splash and dash. Maybe it was close enough he's able to do that. That's a lot of time lost, though.
Oh, I don't even know if that gamble would be worth taking. I mean, that's a lot of time to lose just by lifting.
And there, that Sector 3 was a purple Sector 3 at the 46 seconds for Sector 1. And I didn't see him come into the pits, I don't think so. But surely he must have. I never saw it show up up on the timing board there.
I didn't see any incidents on him reported either.
Yeah. So let's see as he crosses the line here if it adds a pit stop to his... Okay, it did. So, a little confuser. That's why Sector 1 was slow, is because he was coming out of the pits. So Aaron Claybaugh has made his pit stop. He's got 10 seconds behind. Even if Langenberg doesn't pit, he's okay. He's got the first place. Just needs to finish out these last couple of laps. Terry Kyer Jr. with the 1:44.1, fastest lap of the race, has brought that gap down to 2.7 seconds now. And we are just now hitting 2 minutes to go. So let's see where Nurnberger is. Nurnberger here. So when he comes back around, that's going to be the white flag. So this is 2 laps to go.
Unfortunately for Terry, he's just not going to have enough time to get anything done.
Brad McCombs late in this race, really hitting those curbs hard. We've seen how it's done to the LMP3s.
Oh, such a hard hit.
Luckily, no one else involved in that, but that is going to undo what was going to be a podium for him. Now down to 5th, and that's probably where he's going to finish as Ryan Jeevan jumps back up to that podium spot. So Claybaugh letting the other lead. That's both it. We're looking at both our leaders there on the track. Aaron Claybaugh in the GT3s and Zach Nurnberger there in the LMP3s. as he lets him go through there, and both guys just need to cruise to the end for a safe finish as they're about to get the white flag. This is a good timed white flag for Langenberg if he does not take that stop, considering that he's right behind the leader, and they're getting it now.
He actually pulled off the one stop, didn't he?
We have to let it go to the end. He's still got to finish off this race, but it's certainly the strategy that he's attempted, and if he is able to make it work, this will pay off a second place for him, and he's got the fastest guy on the track behind him, who was 9/10 faster than him on last lap, but that's not enough unless he really does run out at the end. Now, we've already had in this in our 0 for A season, we've had a driver lose a first place. We've had a driver lose position running out of fuel across the line, so fingers crossed for him here, but right now he's got 1.6 seconds back to Terry and on a one-stop strategy.
Man, that's amazing that he actually pulled off the one stop. I'm blown away.
Yeah, I did not think it was possible, and I didn't see anyone else attempt it. That's for sure. Even some guys who are well known for good fuel saving, didn't even attempt to try that. And Zach Nuremberger here making his way through the final section of the boot, last couple corners that he's got to deal with. He's got a minute gap, and he's got to hurt himself and off track on the final. A little bit of a lights flashing. Maybe he knew the camera was on him there. He's going to be coming through, rejoining the old track off the boot, and this is going to be a very strong victory for Nuremberger. One of the largest margins of victory we've had so far this season, and looks like he's just taking it a little bit easy as he comes to the end here. A little bit of a celebration. Side by side, we get our race winners going across. I think I don't know if that may. Okay, Eric Lava is across the line. I didn't know if he was about to make him do another lap. That would be very rude. Both drivers crossing. These are our two winners, both on screen. Very cinematic. GT3 winner Aaron Claybaugh and LMP3 winner Zach Nuremberger. Terry Kiger Jr. sets another purple lap, but just was unable to catch Tyler Langenberg at the very end. Langenberg going for a one-stop strategy and coming across in second place.
Man, the fuel game with Tyler Langenberg is strong. I will say that.
Always an impressive display of fuel, and it's now the second time he's done something impressive here, specifically at Watkins Glen. Nicholas Paletti fighting back from a disastrous start to this race for a second place finish, and that is about as good of a recovery as you could imagine. So great finish there for Paletti, and a couple guys still out here on track, most finished. But Ryan Jeevan here just has a few more corners to contend with. And I guess he's third place no matter what, because fourth place has already finished the race. So here's a podium finish for Ryan Jeevan here. Made it through that carnage at the start. Had a couple incidents later in the race, but kept his cool and was putting in some personal bests late in this race, and a great showing for him tonight.
Yep, really good race by Ryan. Congratulations, Ryan.
Ryan Jeevan crossing the line there in third place. Our 8th place standing driver in the LMP3 certainly will make up a couple spots there. And Claybaugh is still on track, doing a victory lap. And that's everyone for our race. Though, unfortunately, a good amount of retirements there. LMP3 early and late in the race, a lot of the GT3s. But an impressive win by both of our first place finishers.
The attrition in LMP3 was unbelievable. Half the field got taken out, not necessarily by their own hand or by their own doing, but just a brutal race for those guys.
Yeah, very difficult. But we have a couple winners, and I'm interested to hear from their experiences in this race. We've got Aaron Claybaugh on the camera, and we've got him there in the waiting room as well.
Should we get him while we go for the
absolutely
while he does his burnout? Hey, Aaron, it's Skip and Zach in the booth. You got time in between burnouts to talk to us?
Always got time to talk to you guys.
What a win, Aaron. You brought back the BMW of old. What was going through your mind there at the end of the race?
Oh man, dude. I mean, I was closing Terry down there, and I know he was kind of being a little conservative. I mean, he had a 10-second gap that I was able to whittle down to about 4, and I don't think I was going to catch him. And then, to my dismay, coming into those last 2 corners there, saw he lost it, and I couldn't believe how the seas parted, and I was able to get the win there. And then from then, it was just being clean, coming in for a splash. Was a little short on fuel, so had to come in, and I was a little worried Tyler was going to be a lot closer because I knew Tyler was trying to do the one stop, but luckily had about a 10-second cushion on him. So feels good. Feels good to get another win here at the Glen. I think this is my 5th one, so I love this track.
Yeah, I was gonna say that Glenn. I know you've talked about it's one of your favorite tracks, one of your best tracks as well. And you run very well at the BMW, but it's been a bit of an unpopular pick this season. With the new wave of the Porsches yet again. What influenced your decision to decide to run the BMW here tonight?
Yeah, so I've actually been having issues with my pedals. My throttle and brake have been kind of periodically running on about 10% off or 10% on, based off of full pressure. And so I took my pedals apart, worked on that, and then I decided, to test out the BMW and Porsche this week. And the BMW was actually, I was struggling with it. I did not have good pace. But then I went out with the Porsche with the baseline setup instead of the actual setup we run in the league. I was like, man, this car's really quick. I'm going to run the Porsche this week. And then when I came back just to double check everything, I was like, oh, I used the wrong setup. So tested both cars out again, and the Beamer was just, I could be a lot more aggressive with it. The Porsche was prone to kind of just random snaps again, kind of like how it was a few seasons ago, at least to what my experience was with it.
Well, hats off to you, Aaron, for overcoming adversity and using the BMW again. It was great to see a non-Porsche car out in front. It really was.
That's a little surprising hearing that from you, man. But it's all good. Happy to get a win tonight. Shout out to my wife for letting me race here tonight. Watching our child. So really appreciate that. Appreciate the whole Doge Squad team, Paul, Travis, and Nick. And shout out also to Terry and Adrian. Those guys were quick. They were pulling away from me there at the beginning of this race, and they just continued to kept stretching it. But the end, the car kind of came back to me a little bit.
Well, congratulations on a great victory here. I know it's a track you love, and you qualified into A on your last opportunity, last race, and now you've already come away with a win. So congrats on this race, and looking forward to some continued momentum heading forward to our next race at Canadian Tire.
Yeah, really looking forward to that one. Thanks, Zach. Yeah, I'm hyped for that, and also looking forward to being in the booth with you for Zandvoort next week. So looking forward to it. Thanks, guys.
Have a good night, Aaron.
You too.
Well, let's go nab our P3 winner, Zach Nuremberger. Zach, this is Skip and Zach in the booth. You got us?
Yep, you guys got me?
Oh, yeah, loud and clear, buddy. Congrats on the win, man. Nice, quiet race. Way to avoid the accident up front.
Yeah, it was pretty boring. It just felt like the 24 hours of NERB, that 2 a.m. stint when like no one's left on the track. It was just kind of one of those sort of deals. I know Brad was behind me and he was really fast, but I think he was just off pit cycle. So had that happened, I don't know, 3 or 4 laps later, it would have been a lot different story, maybe a little more action for you guys. But no, you got to take those when you get them and convert your chances. So really just trying to stay off the curbs and keep it clean.
I mean, what was your view of that incident, though? I saw you shoot, to the inside, which I think is a maybe like a kind of a rare reaction in like a split second. So was it something that you saw bubbling up before it happened?
Actually, I got a chance to look back at it now. When I saw Pletty spin and I saw McCloy spun, I figured that McCloy just kind of got in the brakes too hard. It's really bumpy, and as we all know, going through there, and getting the brakes, get all that nose in the front, and the rear end just comes around. I saw Brad almost snuck through it, and I think Pletty's car jumped over the top and just caught his rear wing of all things and took him out. But yeah, I mean, as soon as I saw that, I knew if I just tried to get on the brakes too hard, that I was just going to lock up the rears or just skid through it. So I figured my best bet at that point was just kind of get on the brakes, go in a straight line, go through the grass, and just pray. And we saw Brad try and take the racing line, see if he can get around the outside, and didn't work for him. So yeah, I mean, it was just kind of a split second. Yeah, I just know how tricky it can be on the brakes. So I guess my best bet was just to kind of hold the wheel straight and cross the fingers.
So, okay, after that incident, after you took the lead as a result of that incident, what was on your mind? Because we were watching it there for a little while. We didn't want to watch it too much and jinx you, but we were seeing like real consistent lap times for 5, 6, 10 laps at a time. Was your plan to just kind of go out there, take it easy, keep consistency in the game, even with Brad trying to chase you down?
Yeah, I mean, I'm one of those guys who runs a lot of overlays and all the fancy stuff. So I kind of had everyone's you know lap times, gaps, pit strategies, field windows, all that kind of stuff. So I knew I was pulling away from Ryan Jeevan, who, by the way, I think got P3, so he had a really good race. So congrats to him. And I knew Brad had to make another pit stop. But I wasn't sure where Plutty was at, and we always know he's up the all his old fuel saving tricks, but he was a little bit further behind. So I knew it was kind of mine to lose, so to speak. So it was really just, like you're saying, I just kept it off the curbs and the bus stops. I think for a while, until like the last 10 minutes, I didn't even have a sub 140 lap time at all. Um, so yeah, it was really just keeping it clean because I knew as long as I didn't mess it up, these guys just didn't have the time, even with Brad and the speed he had. You couldn't make up that extra pit stop. Plutty was just too far back. I had the speed on Ryan, so yeah, it was one of those things. Just kind of lock it down. I tried to take front tires, so I had fresh tires at the end, just in case I had to fight any of those guys or anything crazy happened. And so just watching those out, of course, hot rear tires and cold front. So just kind of cruising through and get everything up to temperature and just making sure I played safe.
Well, it was a fantastic win. Obviously, outside of a short heart rate spike, it was maybe a little bit boring out there in the cockpit, but a win's a win. You don't get more points for being stressed out. So congratulations on that win and taking advantage of the situation that you were given and racing that race clean. So looking forward to Mo Sport in our next race. What kind of momentum do you think you're going to bring to that? And do you think that's going to be a strong one for you?
I really love Mo Sport. I really, fancy my chances at the all you have to do is survive kind of races. I don't know. I just feel like I do a little bit better job than most people most of the time. Long Beach didn't work, so we're not going to talk about that. That's an exception. But
Broadcast didn't survive it either. So
yeah. Nobody survived that. So it's another one of those. My strong suit, so to speak. Definitely gonna be really tricky. The cars, a lot of the track is flat out in these things, probably a good 75%. So how it mingles with the GT3s, we will not know. But it's a track I ran a lot in the P3s doing the Falcon Tire Challenge and that kind of stuff, and I'm really confident with it. So maybe it'll just be a roll of the dice, see if you make it through the first 10, 15 laps or so. But looking forward to it. It's a Pony Express Classic. I don't think we've ever not had good racing here. So yeah, I'm just really looking forward to it. Carrying its momentum, and I'm sure it'll be great for you guys too. It'll be a lot more entertainment, I think, than this one.
Yep. Well, good luck to you there. I'm certainly excited. It's probably my favorite track on the service. So hope that you can maybe get another interview here and maybe see another win for you. So congratulations on that, and you have a good night, Zach.
Thank you.
So as he said, in a couple weeks, we have our next race for E4A, which will be Mo Sport. In the meantime, next week at the same time as this race was, we have O4A, Open Wheel for Amateurs, which will be the Dutch Grand Prix at Circuit Jean Voort. So if you're here for both, tune in next week, same time. And if you're here for a couple weeks, we'll be in Canada. So everyone, have a good night, and looking forward to seeing you again.